Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be solving Leetcode problem 1358, number of substrings containing all three characters. Okay, what does the problem statement states? Okay, we have given a string S contains only characters A, B, C. Okay, return the number of substrings containing at least one occurrence of all these characters A, B, C. Okay, let's go back to the example. Okay, they have given an example called ABC and ABC. Okay, we have to choose all the substrings which will contain at least one occurrence of ABC. Okay, we might pick a substring which can contain ABC, and the corresponding occurrences can be more than one also. Let me go back to the editor and let me try to explain you. Okay, so the mandatory characters are ABC. Okay, whatever substring we are choosing, okay, it should contain at least one character of A, B, and C. Okay, so one such possible substring is basically ABC. This is one possible substring which contains A as A is 1, B is 1, C is 1. Okay, it satisfies the mandatory criteria. If we can also choose another substring which is A, B, C, and A. Okay, here it contains two A characters, one B character, and one C character. Okay, so here also it is satisfying the default criteria, right? It contains at least these characters, right? So another substring would be A, B, C, A, B. Okay, here it contains two A's, two B's, and one C, right? So the next substring could be ABC and ABC. Here it contains 2, 2, 2, right? So the next possible substring is basically BCA, right? BCA is also a substring which contains 1A, 1B, and 1C, right? And the next possible substring is BCAB, which also contains 1A, 2B's, and 1C, right? Again, this is the next substring, which is BCABC, which contains 1A, 2B, and 2C. Okay, if you observe a pattern, right, the moment I have noticed, the moment I have found a substring which contains at least ABC. Okay, this contains 1A, 1B, 1C. So all the substrings which are of um, so this is the substring I have identified, right? So here I have identified a substring which is ABC. Okay, so I can basically add all these characters to my substring, and still it will be a valid substring, right? So the total number of substrings which has ABC as the prefix would be basically, here you can say I can form four substrings, right? So it is basically the right index, so whatever the index of C minus the overall length. Okay, the overall length of this particular string is basically 6. Okay, 6 minus the index of the rightmost character, which is C, which is basically 2, which is basically 4. That is what you can see here. We have found 4 substrings. Okay, so this is the key takeaway, right? The moment we have identified a substring which contains at least ABC characters, so what all substrings it can form with this as a prefix is basically the length of the array minus the index of this particular substring, the end index of this particular substring. Okay, this is the key takeaway. Okay, again, so once I identified this particular substring, right, so this would be the total number of substrings with this as a prefix. So next what I would do, basically I'm going to remove one character from my left. Okay, let's have a pointer left. Okay, I'm going to remove a character, and still I'm going to check whether it is holding my characteristics or not. Okay, which is holding my characteristics or not. If it holds my characteristics still, then I would add will maintain a variable called answer or count, which will be initially 0. The moment I identify a substring which satisfies the default criteria, okay, which satisfies the mandatory criteria, I'm gonna add this particular value to my answer. Okay, uh, and I'm gonna repeat a process. I'm gonna remove each character from my left and still and identify whether after removing a character from the left, I will check whether it is a valid, whether it satisfies the default criteria or not. If it satisfies the default criteria, I'm gonna add this particular value to my answer. Okay, so this is the thought process basically. So let me try to code it down. It will be a lot more clear for you. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna have a variable called left, and I'm gonna so to identify a window, right, I will be initially having two pointers, okay, called left and right, which will be at the starting. Okay, and I will basically increase my right pointer till I identify a substring which contains all these mandatory checks. Okay, the moment I've identified the valid substring, the moment I reach right over here and left will be here, so that means I've identified a substring which satisfies the default criteria. Now I will basically, the total number of substrings with this prefix is basically the length minus index, right? This I will be adding to my answer. So once I identified a default substring, all I would do is basically increase my left pointer till uh, uh, till till the substring becomes invalid. Okay, till the substring, so I increment my left pointer and I will check whether it's a valid or not. If it's a valid, I'm gonna add it. So I'm gonna repeat this process till till the substring is actually valid. Okay, so yeah, and once it breaks the criteria, then I will increment my right pointer, and then again I will start the same process. I will increment my right pointer till it satisfies the default criteria. Okay, so yeah, let's try to code it down. Okay, so all I need is basically I need two pointers. One is left, which will be initially to the left of the string, and right will also be to the left of the string, 0, which is the starting of the string. And let's have a variable called length, which will basically store the length of the string. Okay, and as I mentioned, we should maintain a variable which will tell me the count of the substring which are satisfying this particular criteria. Okay, and let's also store um, so here we are actually maintaining this counts of the current substring, right? To maintain this count, let me have a map which will basically store the occurrences of the characters. Okay, so how many times a particular character has been part of the window. Okay, I'm gonna store it. Okay, character and integer, let me vary it, let me name it as occurrences. So new hash map. Okay, now while right is less than length, okay, I have to go all the way till I have to increment my right pointer in such a way that it have to, every time I have to increment my right pointer, and I have to check whether the substring which has formed is valid or not. Okay, so and the right pointer can go all the way till the end of the array, right, end of the string. Okay, so at every point, so I have to include my character, the current character in my window, right? So the right character is basically s dot character at right. Once I found the character, I have to include the character in my hash map, so which will basically tell me the occurrences of the characters. Okay, so I'm gonna have that occurrences dot put the right character, and occurrences dot get or default. If it was the first time, then we're gonna take the default value as 0, and then we'll have it as a 1. If it was already present in my a hash map. Okay, then I will basically increment it by 1. Okay, the moment I've added a character to my window, I have to check whether this particular window is valid or not. So initially the left and right would be at 0. Now I have included a in my hash map, so a is 1. Now I have to check whether a substring a is valid or not, right? Okay, so I will be basically having a function called is valid, which will basically check, which will basically take the occurrences, okay, and which will tell me whether it's a valid string or not. If it's a valid string, okay, let's assume that we have reached till here and we have found a valid string, right? Once we found a valid substring, so the all the substrings with this particular prefix, right, what all substrings we can form, we can basically form the length minus, right, these many substrings can be formed as I mentioned, right? abc 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 ab abc abc, right? So once we have included it, uh, we have to remove the last character, and then again after removal again I have to check whether it's a valid substring or not. Again I have to remove this, again I have to check a valid string or not. So I have to check till it's actually, till the new substring is actually invalid. Okay, so let's have sorry, it's not integer, it should be char. Okay, so let's the left character is basically s dot character at left. Okay, so once I identified my left character, I have to basically remove that character from my window. The moment I remove from my window, I have to decrement my counts accordingly. So the left character occurrences dot get or default left char 0 minus 1. Okay, so I don't have to use get or default because at this point of time I know for sure the left character will be part of my hash map, so I can directly use the get char and then I can simply decrement it. The moment I have excluded it, I should also increment my left pointer, so that in the next occurrence it will actually check the substring whether it's a valid or not, and if it's valid then accordingly it's going to increment the count. Okay, and this process will keep on going until the current substring will become invalid. The moment it becomes invalid, then I have to increment my right pointer, right? So I will basically increment my right pointer, so this way I can, the moment I have incremented my right pointer, it's going to include the new character into my substring, and it's going to check again whether the newly formed substring is valid or not. If it's valid, then again it has to decrement the left pointer, and it has to increment the overall count. So yeah, let's return the count over here. Okay, so we have defined a function called is valid. Let's try to code it out as well. Is valid, which is actually taking hash map of character and integer, which is occurrences. Okay, so whether, what is the minimum what is the criteria to, what is the criteria which will tell me whether the substring is valid or not? It should have the occurrences of all these the characters, right? So let's define a character array mandatory char. Okay, which will basically have new char a b and c. These are the three characters which should be part of my substring in order to make it as a valid substring, right? So let's try to iterate through these mandatory characters, and then if any of this character is not part of my occurrences, right, get or default uh, c comma 0. If it is less than 1, that means it's not part of my occurrences. Okay, I didn't encounter such character at all. Okay, so if all the three characters were not part of my occurrences, then I have to return. If any one of it is not part of it, then I will return. So the moment I reaches here, that means all the characters were part of my occurrences, then I will return it's a valid substring. The moment it's valid, it will accordingly increment the counts as well, right? So let's try to submit this. Okay, so there is some typo, so yeah, here I have to include a comma. Let's try to run the program. Yeah, it has satisfied all the default test cases. Okay, let's try to submit the solution. It has also satisfied all the test cases as well. So yeah, this problem is basically a sliding window problem. So first step is to identify a window which satisfies the default criteria. The moment you identify the window, so what all substrings which can be formed with this particular window as a prefix would be basically the length minus index, right? So the moment we the next step is to increment the left pointer till this window becomes invalid, and then accordingly increment the counts as well. Yeah, that is the basic thought process. Yeah, if you have any questions related to this particular problem, do post it in the comment section. I will try to respond on the comments, right? Yeah, thank you. Do subscribe to my channel for more such coding videos.